Hello, and thanks for coming along to And We Have an Office Dog, the digital agency podcast where we talk to agency owner-directors and learn more about what makes them tick. From the things that make them similar to the things they'd rather have known sooner, where they've had success and where they've learned some hard lessons. All will be revealed with your host, Chris Simmons, the agency coach, and he'll be talking to a different awesome agency person in each episode, asking them 4 questions and seeing where the conversation takes us over the next 25 minutes. Okay, so let us begin. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, voiceover guy. And on the podcast today, we've got the CEO of That Funny Agency, Jared Miller. Hello.
Hello.
Jared, let's be honest with the people who are listening right now. How long has it taken us to get this recording started?
Well, the year was 2021. It was a cold, blistering morning, but we're here. We made it. It wasn't quite The Handmaid's Tale, but it was harrowing.
Yeah, it was hard work, and it was definitely all your fault, I'm going to say. Definitely nothing to do with me in any way. So let's just...
I've been telling you, having an American on this podcast is just going to just destroy your numbers.
Yeah. Oh, for God. Let's just end it. Let's just make this as quick as we can then.
You know what? I think we should just end it. Oh, I think it went great.
Yeah, it was brilliant, and thanks very much for coming on.
It was a pleasure. I hope everyone learned a lot, and we'll see you on the flip side.
So...
Is that great? I don't even know.
That's it. I think we're done. So, Jared, first of all, tell us about the agency, That Funny Agency. I'm guessing it's because of the humour that you take, or do you just laugh at clients?
Well, we really looking for, we didn't do this on purpose. Let me start off that way. The agency came about because my partner Greg and I had been spitballing a few ideas a few years back about starting an agency. And he said, you do all these comedy videos. Parenthetically speaking, I used to do comedy videos. Mm-hmm. And he said, we could do that for clients. I was like, what? Like That Funny Agency that does stuff? And he goes, that's a great name. And it became sort of like this joke of like, who's that funny agency that can do work for us? That Funny Agency? Yeah, who are they again? Yeah, That Funny Agency. So it became a little bit of a vaudeville, who's on first kind of situation. But we also just kind of saw it as we do things a little bit differently, right? We try to approach things as my creative director, or my, now she's called my VP creative. We keep promoting people. I don't even know what they're called anymore. Not everything has to be funny, but everything has to be human. So we really come about it from a human interaction. And invariably, things are either funny or they give you an epiphany. Of course, my team won't let me use the funny versus epiphany. They think that's horrible. When I'm like, it's written in there.
Yeah, leave the puns to the written word. I suppose it doesn't come off as well verbally.
Yeah, they go, you really need to take the dad joke thing down a few notches.
Yeah. So how long's the agency been going?
So we started during COVID.
Well done.
Lasted through the recession. We're coming up on a year and a half. But experience-wise, we've all been in the industry for dozens of years.
And what does the agency sort of specialize in particular?
Pissing off podcast hosts is probably the number one thing that we do.
And you're really good at it. You should enter an award.
We are, as we like to say, we're a data-driven creative agency. We like to think of creative collaboration in an egalitarian mindset with regards to, as we like to say, relationship building. So we did that by changing the agency game. We think about things from a truly ROI point of view. Anything that we do should be moving the needle, should be, we can track, we can measure, and we don't make heuristic decisions. We let the data drive the conversation, but also we find out what your users need, what your users want. We see ego as being one of the largest deterrents for true growth, and what you may think may work may not. But if you want to try it, let's try it. But as I like to tell my team, fail fast, fail hard, and fix.
Yeah. It's a good way of thinking, as long as that failing hard is definitely like with a parachute. You don't want to fail too hard and lose all the clients in one go.
I just thought of a Bruce Willis movie called Fail Hard, which lasts like 30 seconds, where he goes to defuse the bomb.
Shot when he walks through the door. We knew you were coming. We read the script in advance. So what do you think's been one of the kind of the biggest successes beyond surviving a financial apocalypse or two?
Working with a team that has the same mindset. We came about thinking of things in a very non-traditional way. Family first, then team, then clients, then company. Completely bonkers. Every place I've ever worked before was company first. The way we think of it this way is, I looked for people who were working from home, who had kids, who had other things going on in their life, who basically said, look, why don't you contract me? I'll work some hours doing X role. Other people will say, I can come on, but I have to pick up my kids at 3:00. Great. We work through that because I want people that are completely feel their lives, their personal lives are respected 100%. I don't care about time off. I don't care about when, as long as you are there when it's needed and you do your work, we will get great work because they will then take care of their team members. If your team member says, I have an emergency, someone in my family, knock on wood, just passed away, I have to go deal with this. The rest of the team, being multi-hyphenates themselves, know how to join in. I also ask for a lot of team members to be comedians, artists, musicians, people of the arts, so they can think in a different way and think more in a collaborative way. If you have improv training, it is critical that you understand what yes and does to the group dynamic. So the biggest success we've had is not only starting with people. My dog is snoring behind me if you hear her. So
Brilliant.
She is the worst team member on this team. Does not
even remotely funny. Yeah, doesn't get it.
Adorable. She gets away with it. The yes and mentality is we brought people in that understand that, but then we've also been attracting people who feel that same way. And invariably what that does is when you build a team that really feels strongly committed to each other, we like to say pass the baton in the best way possible, like in the marathon, the 4x100 relay. When you pass the baton, are you passing the baton as best as possible so that the other person, it's so easy for them to get it? But when you have that in place, clients just go, whoa, this team is devoted to me. And if the team and the clients are there, then the company will be there. It's very Field of Dreams without Ray Liotta.
Oh well. I mean, I'm not interested in. That's the only part of it that I really know.
He was so expensive.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to pay the staff first, so he can maybe when a few years time. So if you went back in time to when you and your co-founder were talking about starting the agency, and poof into existence, an older version of you appears and says, "I've got one piece of advice for you, Jared. You're not going to listen to it, but one piece of advice." What piece of advice would you give yourself?
Listen more.
Yeah?
Listen more. I would not have started it at a different time. I think we started it, and I'll explain why. I would have listened more to everyone else around me. While I was a sponge and I gleaned as much information as I could, I would have done even more. I would have pinned my CEOs in a corner and tied them up, trapped them, held them hostage, and asked them everything they possibly knew. And then invariably probably did the opposite because I had no respect for them. No, I learned what I could. I did. I tried to ask as many questions, but I don't think I asked even as many. There was just no way to prepare for this kind
Yeah.
of role. There was no way. And you just learn things. What they say is this is the quickest way to an MBA. I think I might have heard
Yeah.
that on another
Yeah.
one of your podcasts.
Yeah, you
It
listen.
really is.
You're my one listener.
Yeah, one. Don't you see me commenting
Yeah,
every single
it's
one?
the only one.
Yeah. Why do you? I don't want you to bring on more Americans. Oh, because of the technical difficulties. Right. So call back.
Listen more. Listen more was the point that you were making whilst I interrupted
Listen
you,
more.
which is great. Not ironic whatsoever.
I think I'm actually saying that because my team will be listening to this afterward, and they're going to say, "Jared, did you tell them you're listening now?"
And how do you? So that I think I know what you mean by that, because obviously it means something slightly different to everyone. The learning bit. Obviously, when you start a digital agency, it's that Donald Rumsfeld style. There's an unknown there. You don't you know what you think you want. You just don't know what you don't know until it hits you in the face and says you should have listened to this I didn't even know I should have been listening to that. So how have you learned to listen more? Is it simply that people have kind of told you to?
Well, I would say I've been studying a little bit of Cynic and Chris Voss and a couple other leadership minds, and I've been listening for the no, especially when it comes to talking to clients, finding out what they don't want and hearing what is not what they don't want. First off, helps with negotiations, but it really changes the dynamic. It makes you, and when you repeat it back to them, so this is not going to be something you're focused on right now. We don't have to really kind of put this in there. And even though in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, how could they forget paid marketing, right? I'm not going to push it on them. I'm going to say, understood. We're focusing on the website. We're focusing on the build. We're focusing on organic growth. We're focusing on SEO. I'm listening to you. And I'm knowing that paid marketing is something, don't keep pushing on them. Why aren't you doing SEM? That's part of SEO. No, just listen. And if you can find out the no's, and you can invariably get to the yes and find out what truly is the pain that they have. And if you can dig as deep as possible, it'll probably hurt them, but that's okay. You just keep digging more. Then you find out,
And the good thing is framing in that sort of scenario. If you know that you're doing your digging, then you do your framing in a good way in advance, and you build some good standing with the client or the member of the team or whoever it is you're dealing with. You can deal with them a lot better. So what's one thing that you did when you started out? Because obviously it's a short period of time we're talking about here. What's one thing that you did when you started out that you kind of you went, oh no, we're not doing that anymore, and kind of put a lid on it straight away?
I would say we still are doing it, which was I forced my partner to purchase extremely high-end, sophisticated software that I was used to using at a large agency. Instead of figuring out a simpler solution or a newer technology that was out there that could have saved money. And I don't necessarily want to throw out names of the behemoths that are out there for CRM that cost a fortune and maybe having some trouble in the news these days with the CEO stepping down. I'm not mentioning who they are. I'm not going to force this conversation, right? We're just going to talk about sales. So when we're talking about CRMs that may be too expensive, I'm not mentioning an income. Do not make me say the name.
I will not force you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's it's good camaraderie, and I feel like we're one with the force. Yeah, it was expensive. It was expensive to start. Great product, actually. I still feel it's the right one for us. Although I've now been sort of hearing different technologies that are filling in gaps. But it was just an overhead expense, especially being a remote agency. If I didn't mention that, 100% fully remote agency, we're supposed to have no overhead. All of a sudden, we've got bills that we're going to fall behind now.
Yeah.
And it's, why? Why would I put us behind the 8 ball just to begin with? So that was, I would say, do not buy software until you know you need it.
Yeah, I call it looking sort of you buy the shiny things. So you've been working at a big agency, or you've seen what other agencies are talking about on Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever, and the next thing you know, you've got a CRM that has 999 features you don't touch, or of those 999 features you need 2, but you need to pay for special integrations for, or whatever else. Then there's all of the connectors and all of those sorts of things. All before you even start, you might just need a flipping spreadsheet to start off with. You just need a spreadsheet. And as soon as you get to the point where you go, right, this spreadsheet is how we run the business, then you can go, oh, we're going to use Monday.com, or we're going to use ClickUp, or we're going to use Asana or something like that. You know, if you want to get really crazy, you can use Coda, which I don't know what, you'd have to be a certain kind of masochist to want to use Coda, but it is pretty bloody good. But yeah, don't go after the shiny things straight away, because that's bills that you don't need to pay, and it's complexities that you don't need. And running an agency is complex enough, especially if, like you say, it's fully remote and you're focusing on the people bit first. Imagine with the complexities of that, someone calls you and says, hey, I need the day, I'm taking my kid to something or whatever else. And you go, sure, no worries. Then you've got to click 18 buttons on a CRM just to make one task be reassigned to someone else. It's just crazy.
You have to find somebody also who is an adept at the system, right? Because they have to have special training to, use it. And you're like, I didn't realize this is an F1 Air Force, airplane. And, I'd have some Top Gun Maverick in there. And then, plug Top Gun Maverick now on digital TV. Anyway, so...
some sort of...
So I get 6 from Top Gun.
I don't think they listen. I think, like I said, you're the only listener. So is there something conversely to that you you think that you did really well at the outset and you've stuck to in a big way?
I think what we did was focused, as we kind of talked before, on the ROI cycle. By having all 3, obviously there's more divisions, but we have 4 divisions: strategy, marketing, development, and creative. We have fancy names for them, but that's what they are in essence. By focusing on the teams delivering to each other in that baton methodology, we were able to have case studies quickly. Actually, I mentioned this before. The agency started on a whim. This is I was let go from a large software development company who basically said they wanted to eliminate the entire retail division. I was last one in, first one out. And I was like, the entire retail division during COVID. Oh, wow. Because no one's going to be buying online. Okay. It's like the entire division. We were I think they needed to make their EBITDA look good, and that was fine. But when they left, I had a client ready to go. I was there 3 months and out of sale. $300,000 now. Ready to go. The client says to me, she says, well, what are we supposed to do now? And I go, can you just hold on for 1 month? Just one tiny little month. I don't want you to do anything. I'll be right back. And not 30 minutes after that call, I swear to God, Greg, my partner, calls me up and he goes, hey, I'm thinking of moving to Bucks County where I live. And I go, hey, it's time to start That Funny Agency. He goes, it's time. It's time. We started with a client. We were able to build an agency with a very substantial contract. And in a year's time,
it's a good launch contract.
It was, I mean, look, I wish everyone could have that to start, but we were able to show the return, show the growth through marketing, through a CRO, through anything we could find to change their website for the better, bring in with their marketing campaign for hiring. All of these things showed growth, and we were able to make a case study. So invariably, the best thing we did to start was stick to our guns and focus on that ROI cycle.
Yeah, and it it's so hard when you're starting a new agency, and I've mentioned this a few times with and a few of the podcast guests have done actually. It's really hard to stick to your guns because you need the revenue in order to keep going. If you don't stick to your guns, you may lose the revenue and lose the business, but not sticking to your guns means that you essentially prolong that agony because you then continue to say yes to everything else. So 5 years down the line, you hate yourself, everyone hates you, you've got no money. Whereas stick to your guns for 6 to 12 months and it sticks.
I right now, the other listeners of your podcast will be the TFA Avengers, and I'll explain why we call them TFA Avengers in just a minute. But they're right now screaming, "Oh my God, tell them that you fired our second client."
Do it. Tell us now.
We did. So we had to fire our second client because it was a lose. We were never going to make money. They were never willing to open up, and we're not talking about a cheap client. This is somebody who made millions of dollars a year in a luxury fine goods Shopify experience, and they were making. They could afford it. They needed to put money into the marketing. They were just unwilling to priming the well and saying even $10,000 a month was hard to get. To even just say, listen, you're going to get 3x. It just with simple changes on Shopify, we can show you can get 3x. It's going to pay you back. No. And we could not win that argument no matter what we tried. So we ended the relationship.
So yeah, sticking to your guns is one thing, but actually like living by that, proving it by getting rid of a client is and the thing is, an unhealthy relationship, no matter what the relationship, is unhealthy. So it's always better to sort of say sorry, so long, thanks for all the fish and goodbye, and leave it there. And the problem that you've got at that point, early doors, if it's your second client, is your trousers turn brown. And do you have to go out on and say yes to more stuff? Thankfully, you stuck to your guns and you carried on as you meant to, as you started. But if you were to, if someone was to come and knock on your metaphorical agency door, since there isn't a real agency door right now, well, I mean, they could have probably. Yeah. Okay. If she was to knock on the door and say, "Hey, look, I'm going to start a competing agency against you, honey."
Yeah.
What one piece of advice would you give her? And obviously not don't do it.
This is something I've been kind of talking about lately. Marry the why, date the how. Know your mission.
Like that.
Know your mission. Know exactly what you are out to do. Yes, that will evolve, but know it from the beginning. Understand that your mission and the way you approach is yours, and that has to stay within yourself. Your idealism, the way you espouse that to your nation of followers, or your team of two, or whomever that needs to hear that. Keep that why, but date the how. Because the how is going to change.
Yep.
You're going to figure out different ways to, for example, our model payment, our business model had to change. It had to. We came up with a great system of story points, because we do have a TFA Agile philosophy, which is taking Agile development, but actually incorporating into both marketing and creative tasks, where every task is given a story point, a value. And we don't know if one story point takes 1 hour or 5 hours, but the client's never going to get billed by the hour. They're billed by the point, right? It's on us to do it well. It's also on us if we don't do it well. But you will get that task done because you bought the task. Now, I would say to anyone starting, find the model that works, but also listen to clients. Interview clients. Do your stakeholder interviews before you start an agency. Why don't you interview some of your former clients and say, if you had an ideal agency, what would they be like? We have we love nonprofits. We work with nonprofits. 20% of our business must be with nonprofits, and it's almost if we had a charter, it would be in the charter. And we're asking our nonprofit partners, what do you like about us, or what don't you like? Be honest. What do you want in an agency? Because we'll put that out as content, because and again, it's going to be advice to future agencies that work with nonprofits to understand specifically how to work with them. Right?
Yeah.
They don't not have money. They have money.
Yeah, they just don't have any at the end. Yeah.
No, but they have nothing at the end. There's no profit. They're trying to be precise. So everything you do for them should move the needle. You have to be cognizant of that. So as you start an agency, know your audience and date the how. So, remember the why.
So I mean, that's pretty decent advice to end the podcast on. Marry the why, date the how. Love it.
Yeah. Well,
thank you very much for being an annoying American on my podcast,
Chris. If you ever need me to come back and just seriously annoy everyone again, this is what I do.
Wait. I'm gonna be asking you to join webinars and all sorts of things. If I want to disenfranchise an entire planet's worth of people,
just don't call us an agency. That's all that matters. Chris, thank you so much. This was a pleasure.
Thank you. And on our next podcast, we'll have a different agency leader, probably from Europe. Thanks very much for listening.